Hey there, y'all. So we have our StringKing Mark II V here, and we're going to be stringing it up with some Jimalax 6-diamond mesh, also referred to as monster mesh. So one thing I wanted to get into here right away was that 6-diamond mesh, and I'm speaking more, I guess, specifically about Jimalax, which is a company of mesh that I really love and adore and that I go to for my 6-diamond. It's going to come though in different qualities, right? So this right here, all of these that you're going to see are going to be 6-diamond hard mesh, but this right here stretches apart super easy in comparison to this piece right here, right? In comparison, all of these are Jimalax to this piece, which stretches a lot easier than the piece before it, and then this maroon piece doesn't stretch too easy. So if you're having a piece that doesn't stretch out very easy, it's important that you get your mesh all the way stretched out, pre-stretched if you will, okay, before we start stringing it. These diamonds are a lot larger than, you know, your 9-diamond or your 10 diamonds that you're traditionally used to stringing with. So it's important that the first time that we interlock these diamonds to the sidewall, that they're positioned correctly in order to keep this piece of mesh from pretty much losing the shape that's going to allow it to be restrung again or to be manipulated back on the sidewall, right? So we're stretched out pretty well here. If you do have one of those hard pieces, like I was saying, so you're going to want to run that underneath some hot water, really working that mesh till it gets nice and stretched out. Now after it's as stretched out as you can get it, you're going to want to dry it off just a little bit, so that way as you continue to string it, you know, your hands aren't slipping around, but you are going to want to get that mesh, you know, nice and wet and stretched out all of the way, but with warm water, so that way it's not, you know, pulling back to its original shape as quickly, and you know, you're going to have to really mold it with your hands, right? And it's going to be a little bit of a battle. So 6-diamond monster mesh, it's a little bit tougher. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. I have pre-cut my top string, and we are using Jimalax sidewall string for all of our sidewall and top strings today, doing our basic, you know, figure 8 knot. So I create my figure 8, and then I'm going to go ahead and work that string back through to where I'm right here, start to shape, bringing it together right here, giving myself a little bit of slack at the end. Okay, and now with our 6-diamond, we are going to start with the first top row that has our 6 on it. We're going to go ahead and fold that back to the second row of 6. Okay, so we're folding it over that row of 5. And so this is going to be our first row right here. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch it out on the head to see where I'm going to go ahead and want to anchor our first sidewall to it. Excellent. So we want to make sure that we're creating a nice tight top right here. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start through our third Mark II V sidewall hole from the outside going in, and then going through from the front of the mesh through the back on that top 6 row, going through both of those rows right there. The rows that are folded over, that is. Okay, now this is important right here, and you're not going to see, you know, a lot of detail from other people that talk about how we string this. When we string this top row right here, we want to make sure that we're not stringing it all the way at the bottom of this diamond, kind of like it's sitting right there. Okay, that's not going to create the tightness that we're looking for. We're actually going to want to string it as high as we possibly can. Okay, so I'm now going to go ahead and go back over the sidewall from the outside back in, following the same path of that string right there from the front of the mesh out through the back again right here. And then, like I said, positioning that diamond to where as I start to pull it, it's going to be sitting at the top right there versus the bottom, okay? And now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna jump into our first top string interlock, okay, which is going to be with our second diamond. So I'm going from the back of the scoop through the front, down through the front of the mesh, out through the back, and pulling down. And you'll notice that I'm starting to really shape what we have right here, trying to get an idea of where everything is going to fit right here. And as I'm kind of looking at this, I anticipate that we're actually going to be able to move this down one more. So this is something that's going to happen as you string, and you want to make sure that I would rather go back and fix a very, very early adjustment versus, you know, kind of be stubborn and think to myself, well, I can work around it as I go through. So we're gonna move our side, we're gonna move this diamond down just one. So now we're on our fourth one. So we're gonna go ahead and redo that same process that we just did, wrapping it around and then back through. As we move down this sidewall, some of these, the holes get a little bit tighter. So moving that string through twice takes just a little bit more of a fine adjustment. And so you'll see here that I just created a lot more space in order for us to really stretch this next diamond. So this is where we're at right now. So repeating this through the back of the scoop, through the front, so from back to front, then from front to back of the next row, or sorry, the next diamond rather, in our front, or our top 6 diamond, pulling through. Yeah, and this is a lot tighter. This is gonna look a lot better. Trying to center this diamond right here underneath this interlock. Very good. And now from here, we're going to go back through this diamond from back to front, from the front of the scoop through the back of the scoop. And then I'm going to pull down through the string right here. Everything's nice and tight. Voila, voila. That's the beginning of our top string with extra tightness. And now we're moving on to our third diamond. We're gonna do that exact same process. We're gonna go ahead and skip this next top string hole, okay? Because as you can see, that would be really, really bunched up, okay? And we wanna center our top string underneath this, our top string hole rather, underneath this diamond, okay? So I'm going from the back of the scoop to the front of the scoop, front of the mesh to the back of the mesh. So this is what we look like right here whenever it's super loose. Pull it back for y'all. I'm gonna center it a little bit now. Pull nice and tight. As you can see, I'm also pulling on this next diamond to see where that looks like center, to make sure that everything right here is as tight as possible. See me looking at my fingers. This is the second head we've strung today, so fingers are getting a little bit raw. So now we're going back through the back of the mesh, through the front of it, front of the scoop, through the back of the scoop, passing it back. So this is what it looks like right here. We're gonna pass it back through underneath. We're gonna pull down. We're gonna go ahead and tighten her up. We're gonna do the same thing for the next one now. We are not skipping a hole, okay? We're using the next top string hole, we're using the next diamond. So going through the back of the scoop, through the front of the mesh, through the back of the mesh. And pull across. Notice how I'm pulling on that next diamond that we're gonna be using again. Getting my spacing correct. Going back through this diamond again, from back to front. Through this top string hole from the front to back, looping it back underneath this string. So notice I lift this string up, I pull the string that's coming through the top string underneath it and through it, and then we tighten, tight, tight, tight. So you guys can see how tight this is right here. This is what our front looks like. Everything looks very symmetrical. Moving on to our last one. So now we are skipping this hole right here. Back of the scoop to the front of the scoop, front of the mesh to the back of the mesh on this 5th diamond. Starting to pull it across. Use my stomach over here as my anchor point. Feeding it back through again. Oops. Excuse me. Trying to put it in a spot for y'all to see, even though I'm sure that's not helping. Here we go. Almost done with our top string. Fingers feeling a little bit raw, getting a little bit red. You gotta put the work in though if you wanna have the results. And we are now going to go from the back of this last diamond through the front of it, from the inside of this 4th sidewall hole through the outside of it, wrapping around the sidewall right here, back through the diamond, through both of them, from the inside of the sidewall again, through that same hole, and feeding it through the same sidewall hole. Okay, so here we are. And now remember, we want this part of our diamond to sit atop where our string is tightened to the sidewall. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start to tighten it. I'm gonna take away this extra slack that I have right here, pulling extra tight, positioning that diamond. And this one's one that we could have used gloves on. Oops. Finishing with our basic overhand knot, and you'll see how much pressure I'm really keeping on right there, right? So you'll see that I'm wrestling with this a tad, if you will, right? So here we go. This is our tops. This is our diamond, our 6 diamond top string right there. Very symmetrical, very tight, front to back, looking really good. Jumping right into the sidewalls right here. Sidewalls are gonna be a little bit easier. So making that same, infinity knot, figure 8 if you will, pulling down. Now one thing that y'all will probably notice, and you still wanna give yourself enough string, is that you probably won't use as much string on your sidewalls for 6 diamond as you do for 10 diamond. And that's because the diamonds are bigger, meaning that there's gonna be potentially less interlocks going down, meaning that you're not gonna have to use as much string. Okay, so jumping right into, and I apologize, I keep doing the Bieber flip. So as you can tell, we without a haircut here for a little while. So we're gonna go ahead and continue to pull down on, so this is unique in the way that we do this with our 6 diamond. So we don't always do this with every, with like 9 diamond or 10 diamond or anything like that, right? I keep saying 9 diamond, but I'm referring to 10 diamond, and we string it with the 9 diamond top, okay? We are actually going to go through this same top 6 row diamond right here to get even more stretch out of this, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert my sidewall string through the 5th hole down. I'm going to use an interlock that we've used in videos before, but if it's your first time, we're gonna go through the back, and I'm not going through both of these, I'm not going over through the top part of the folded one, just the bottom part of the folded diamond right here. So I want y'all to be able to see this. This is really important. I'm not going through both of these, okay? Through from front to back right here, pulling down. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna skip 1 hole, go through the sidewall, from the outside through the inside. I'm gonna pull through, so I look like so. And then I'm gonna feed it back through that single diamond, like so, and then we're gonna yank down. Very good. And now with 6 diamond, what I actually like to do is I like to go about 2 at a time. So 2 diamonds at a time. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna work our next diamond right here. I pull down on the next row of 6 diamond to see how far I can stretch this, because this is where we're creating that channel. This is where we're also creating that consistency with the ball, not getting stuck in the scoop of our pocket right here, right? So I pull down to see where we're at. I'm gonna try and match where this diamond is stretching with the nearest sidewall hole right here. So I pull down as far as I can. I see where it matches with that sidewall hole, and that's where I'm gonna try and interlock it at. Okay, so we're gonna be ambitious, and we're gonna try and skip 2 and go to the 3rd one down. So I'm gonna go from from the back to the front again of that next 6 diamond. I'm gonna go skip 1, 2, go through the 3rd one from the outside to the inside, and these are like the tightest little sidewalls too. And I have like a bigger string. And then I'm going from the front of the mesh to the back of the mesh, and I'm gonna pull down, and now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna repeat that same thing on the other side. I got some excess, where are my scissors at? Some excess top string right here. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that, leaving enough to where if I do have to go back and make an adjustment, I can. And what I'm actually gonna do real quick is as we burn this wick, I'm gonna adjust this one too real quick, because we are working with a very, very small spot. All right, so jumping right into the next one. I'm doing the same thing, entering from right underneath where our top string finished. We're gonna go through that top 6 diamond from front to back again. Or sorry, from back to front, back to front, back to front. Bringing it all the way down. Skip a hole, going from the outside in on this side wall, feeding it like so. And then we're gonna go back underneath that same 6 diamond from front to back this time, feeding it through. And this is gonna be a little bit tight. And I'm trying to do this in a spot where y'all can see it. So we're here, I pull down, we get it nice and tight. And as you can see, there's lots of stress on this knot now. So that's why it's important that, you know, everything's strongly secured in there. That knot's got quite a bit of pressure on it. And now I do that same interlock again. So I'm going from back to front, pulling down. We skipped 2 to the 3rd. 1, 2, go in. From the outside going in, pull through, like so. Feed it back through that same diamond from the front to the back. Get some leverage right here, turn the skin off of my fingers. So one way that you can save your fingers a little bit is if you take some, I know we're gonna say baseball, if we take some baseball batting gloves, get some cheap ones, cut the tips off of, you know, these 4 fingers that you're gonna be using the most, right? And then make sure that you're keeping, you know, the leather on the, you know, the main body of the fingers, that you're gonna be really gripping and playing on those sticks. That's gonna help with, you know, keeping your fingers not getting so raw, okay? And so we're gonna use the trick that we've used in previous videos to kind of see how our pocket is shaping out. So if we were to do a single, what this would look like, okay? So I'm going now, this is a different type of interlock, or a different type of interlock, right? So I'm going from the front of the mesh through the back, pulling down. Same thing over here. I'm gonna do this one at the same time now, okay? Through the front of the mesh, through the back, that same row of 6 diamonds, okay? I just wanna get an idea of how my pocket is starting to shape. And we see that this diamond right here looks like, as we start to push this pocket, wants to come up just a little bit. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna secure it to the sidewall instead of leaving it as a 1. So we're gonna take that string out of that diamond. We just learned what we needed from it. Getting a little bit sweaty, y'all, I apologize. Now, we don't need to stretch this as far down as possible like we were doing with these first 2, okay, because we're not necessarily looking for this to help create the channel and really define it, as much as what we're really looking for is just creating consistency amongst the top of the stick, okay? So I'm gonna pull this down just a little bit and see where it lands as I kind of shape that pocket again with my hands. And we are going to use a knot on this one. So we're using a different type of way to go ahead and use connection with the mesh and the sidewall. So what I'm gonna do right here is I'm going to skip 3 holes, or I'm gonna skip 2 holes and go through the 3rd. Coming from the front of the mesh through the back of the mesh now. Okay, so this is what we look like. This one's a little, let's follow along. Taking that same piece of string, going between where the sidewall hole was, or the sidewall and the sidewall string is. And what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna feed it down and through, like so. So this is what it should look like, very, very loose, but we don't want it to be loose. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start to tighten it by pulling down where it's gonna eventually anchor. I take away my slack. I want to start shaping this to see where we're at. Now the reason that I want to use this knot versus that interlock that we used before is this knot is going to have just a tad bit more flexibility on the sidewall, with being able to shift the channel of the pocket ever so gently without causing really any inconsistency. Whereas that interlock that we were using is gonna really keep that channel super rigid, and with 6 diamond mesh, as you break it in, you're not gonna want something that has too tight of a channel with too heart of mesh. So we're gonna do the same process. I'm skipping 2 diamonds, going in to this 3rd hole beneath, okay, from the outside in, from the front of the mesh through the back of the mesh. Going from over the top, in between where the sidewall string and the sidewall is, and feeding it back through my spot right here. So super loose, right? This is hideous, ugly loose, but this is how it should look, okay? Now I'm gonna start to pull down where my interlock will be, tighten up my knot. Knot's nice and tight, skin's coming off the fingers. Okay, so here we are. It's gonna come together within these next couple of sidewall. So we're gonna see what it would look like if we were to go ahead and throw another single in there, right? To kind of see how the pocket's coming together. So I'm going from the front of the mesh to the back of the mesh again, through that next row of 6 diamonds, doing the same thing on the other side. This is really helping me, like I've probably said countless times now, predict and really see where the pocket is starting to form without stringing and having to unstring anything, okay? So I start to work my pocket in right here. And this 2V gets narrow in the center of the head, although towards the top of it, it has a nice wide flare. So it's important that we don't get too tight of a channel in the middle of this head right here, right? And that we really give this an opportunity to open up. So what we are going to do right here, and this is where it starts to get just a little bit tricky, and we got to start playing with this. So I'm going to pull down one more time. I'm going to really start to push this pocket in and stop talking for a second and really think. So what we're going to do is we're going to do one more baby interlock right here, because what as you can see, if I were to keep this as just a basic 1 right here and not pull this mesh any tighter, as the ball starts to release up this pocket, the release point gets dangerously close to the scoop of the head, right? Which isn't something I'm too interested in. I want this to be just a little bit lower, so that way we don't run into the risk of the ball getting stuck right here in the scoop. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that 1 that we started just out. We never put it into the sidewall or anything like that. We just fed it through the diamond. And instead now we're gonna do our interlock again. So we're gonna go from the back of the mesh through the front of the mesh. We're just going to skip 1 hole right here. Okay, so I'm just gonna skip 1 hole, coming from the inside of the sidewall to the outside of the sidewall. And you'll notice that I just tightened up right here, taking away all of that slack. And I'm now going to feed it back through that same diamond. And it's really important that you take away that slack, because there is going to be just a little bit of space right here and a little bit of wiggle for this diamond, if done properly. Same thing over here. From the front of the mesh, or sorry, from the back of the mesh through the front of the mesh, skipping 1 sidewall hole from the outside to the inside, tightening. So this is what I look like right now, y'all. And then I'm gonna feed it back through that same diamond from the front of the mesh through the back of the mesh. So I look like this. Tighten it up. And now I'm gonna go ahead and start that next 1 again to see where the pocket's shaping. So from the front of the mesh through the back of the mesh on that next row of 6 diamonds, keeping everything nice and tight. And we're gonna go ahead and pull down again. And this is really starting to come together. All right. 6 diamond with the less diamonds, you know, you really have to take your time to see where the diamonds are falling on the sidewall, to see where the pocket is starting to shape. If you start to break 6 diamond in a specific way that isn't, you can break it in a way that you're not going to be able to restring the same piece of mesh effectively, right? And every piece of, you know, mesh that you string eventually is going to break in, and adjustments on the sidewall are probably going to maximize the efficiency of the pocket, right? So the first time that you string a stick, leaving it strung that same way, I'm not saying that it's not going to work great. I'm saying that minor adjustments can actually be made to make sure that the pocket works more consistently, okay? So we want to make sure that we're really taking the time to see where these diamonds are falling, right? So it's looking like we're going to want to go ahead and start throwing 1s in here. I'm a little hesitant on throwing another interlock in there because I want the pocket right here to really start to form. And by throwing in 1 more interlock, that's gonna create more of a channel and not necessarily allow us to get more of the depth in the bag that we want in the pocket. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do a 1 on this. Okay, so we already have it in position for that one where we went from the front of the mesh through the back of the mesh to that next 6 diamond. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to skip 2 holes and go down 3 underneath our last interlock, going from the outside of the head to the inside. And this is what we look like right here. And I'm gonna tighten. Do the same thing on the other side now. I skipped 2. And this head, compared to some other heads, has a lot more holes, right? So this has tons of sidewall holes where you can be really customizable with it versus a 6 diamond head like so that doesn't have as many, still more though than, you know, different types of heads. So, all right, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna throw another 1 in there, or start another 1 rather. So from the front of the mesh to the back of the mesh again, seeing what everything looks like. Pulling down, pinching at the throat, molding the pocket. And we're looking pretty good right here. The channel's not looking like it's too tight. It's looking like it's gonna be really good whenever it starts to break in. We might have to do just a little bit of playing with it, and I'll show you how to do that as we continue to work our way down the stick. So we have our 1s in place right here. We pinch on the throat, I push in the pocket. I'm gonna go ahead and line my next interlock, or my next 1 up rather, okay, right underneath where this diamond is sitting to ensure that it doesn't go below that spot. And so what that's doing is that's keeping that diamond in the spot that I want it. So I skipped 2 and went in through the 3rd hole underneath that last interlock that we did. This is looking a little bit loose right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the one up before it. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start another 1 again. So from the back through the front. And with 6 diamond, it's very rare that you have more than 1 set of maybe a double up, right? So if we were to do, instead of just a 1 right here, if I were to do another 1 of those before I ever interlocked, it's very rare that you would do that in 6 diamond. So if you're wondering why we got a bunch of, you know, single patterns, a bunch of 1s and not 2s or anything like that, or doubles, that's why, because these diamonds are so much larger, okay? So I have my 1 in place, pinch it down, I start to mold the pocket. As you guys can see, we are really coming together right here. So channel's looking a little bit tight. This is gonna be tighter than what we want it to be at the very, very end, but I'm gonna show you guys how we manipulate that. All right, so from here, same thing that we did last time. I wanna see where this diamond starts to fall at. And from there, I wanna go ahead and pinch it off. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and skip 2 to a 3rd again. So I skip 2 holes. I go from the outside through the inside. Pulling up, fingers are getting pretty raw by this point. If you're having a hard time continuing to pull on strings through blisters or anything like that, needle nose pliers work really well. We just gotta tough it out. Don't be a sissy. All right, so we are not going to do another 1 through this. Okay, because we're coming to the end of our sidewall right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull down on my strings. I'm going to go ahead and shape my pocket again, seeing where this diamond is. This last diamond is going to be where we go ahead and we tie off. All right, so what we're gonna do, and as y'all can see, our pocket's looking really pretty right now. Looking good. So what we're gonna do is we're going to go from the outside of the diamond through the inside of this last row of 6, or the next row of 6 rather. We're gonna bring it all the way down from the inside to the outside of our last sidewall hole. So we're all the way down right here, pulling through, nice and tight. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, making sure that my interlock above that is super tight. We do not want loose sidewalls at all. Creates a lot of inconsistency. Starting to get So here we are. This is looking like a little bit of a grocery bag, right? So what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're actually gonna use this last row of 6 diamond, and that's going to be what we're gonna use with our bottom string. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and tie off these knots. Basic overhand knot. These holes at the very, very bottom are itty bitty. So if your knot's pulling through, I don't know what type of string you're using, because on these StringKings, they're itty bitty. They're also very, very strong. So I'm a huge fan of StringKing. Not saying that they don't break. If you're using it a lot, everything should probably break eventually. All right, so we have the last of our pink shoelace that we're using as our bottom string. So StringKing has a little bit different of a setup for bottom strings than, you know, a lot of traditional lacrosse heads do. So what we are going to do is we're going to use this. If you're looking at it right here, it's going to be the bottom 2 is going to be where we first anchor it through. Okay, so I'm going to come up through my bottom one right here. I'm going to bring it through this. I'm on my last row of 6 diamond that I just used, bringing it through this second diamond, going back through my 3rd diamond from back to front, and I'm now going to feed it through this second hole on the top. StringKing coming through with lots of holes. Okay? And now I'm gonna go back up through, I'm gonna skip that middle hole on the top row, and I'm gonna bring it back up through that outside hole from the bottom up, feeding it back through from the front to back of my 4th diamond of that row. So we're here, and then we're gonna finish it going from back to front of our 5th diamond, and then out the second bottom hole in the throat. And I'm struggling to catch onto my tip, y'all. So y'all probably beat me to it. Then we're gonna go ahead and make sure that everything is the proper tension, that when we pull down, everything is equal. And as y'all have heard me say before in other videos, I don't like to have a very big bottom string, right? That's gonna create some inconsistency, so we're gonna pull this pretty tight, see where the pocket shapes. Voila. All right, so here we are right now. Now, if this were to be, and this isn't too deep of a pocket, okay, but if this were to start bagging out over time, one of the adjustments that we could make were to be bringing down one of these side walls to, and kind of just moving the pocket down just a tad. But for right now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna tie our strings together here at the bottom. Just a basic knot, tie them together. Continue to shape the pocket. And so here's where I start to really play with this channel, okay? So I have my hands on the inside of the stick right here, on the channel, where the mesh really starts to get pinched down right here. And now what I'm going to do is just ever so gently, not necessarily ever so gently, I'm just pushing out. Not pushing out necessarily where the mesh is defined by the interlocks, if that makes sense, okay? But creating room right here with my fist, with my fingers, for the ball to travel out of the stick, okay? So we're not gonna throw a shooting string in there just yet. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna have to break this bad boy in just a little bit, but we'll go ahead and we'll give this the field test. But what we have here is our Mark II V by StringKing with some white Jimalax 6 diamond hard mesh in it, strung with a nice mid pocket. Looking super symmetrical, showing off all sides of her. And there we go. I appreciate y'all sticking around.